what are your superpowers? In other words, what do you do best? What would you do even if you weren't paid to do it because you love it so much? And so there's sort of three things when you're looking at careers or path. One is, what do you love to do? The second is, what are you good at? And the third thing that's very important is, does someone need it?
So today I'm here with Sally White, who's a business strategist in consulting. And today we're going to be doing a couple of things, Sally. First, we're going to be talking about what it is to be a business strategist and consultant. And then we're going to be talking about the path that you took to get to where you are before finally hearing some advice that you have for the younger generation who wants to pursue a career similar to yours.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So first question, can you please just tell me about your job?
Sure. So Shane, I have my own company. It's called EchoWolf Solutions, and I do four things for clients. One is I help them with their business strategy because strategy drives everything. In other words, do they want to sell their company for millions of dollars? Are they leaving it as a legacy to their family? Are they trying to get government contracts? Whatever they want to do, strategy drives everything. So I help them get to that, or I have people in the wolf pack who can help them with that. The second thing I do is once they understand their strategy, I help them with marketing. In other words, who are their buyer personas? Who's their target market? What conferences do they go to? What platforms do they use? Do they use LinkedIn? Do they use Facebook? And then really helping them get out there and identify their superpower and who buys their services and products and where those people shop. So that's the second thing I do. The third thing is I'm an executive connector. What that means is I know a lot of people, CEOs and executives in commercial, and I also know a lot of people in the government, 3 stars, 4 stars, government individuals who can help people get contracts. So I don't know everybody, but I'm pretty good at teaching people how to get to people through LinkedIn and connections and relationships and going to conferences like that. And then the fourth thing I do, Shane, is I help with technology. In other words, this is a great platform we're using today. In other words, how do you use technology, whether it's AI or machine learning or Calendly, how do you use technology so that you can spend time doing what you do best and automating things? So those are the 4 things I do as a business strategist and a marketing consultant.
That's awesome. So what does a typical day look like for you?
Gosh, so typical day, so I go to a lot of conferences. So I come back from conferences and I have a stack of business cards like this. And typically I've added the business cards through my phone to an app, and I start helping my clients follow up on those individuals. So that's one of the things I do. The second thing is I help them with strategy. Like right now I'm helping a client who's helping with school safety, given all the tragic things that are occurring around the nation. And so I basically went to the Capitol and I worked with the legislatures and helping figure out how to get funding. That's another thing I do. I helped another client today get a speaking engagement for a conference, because if you can go to a conference and you can speak about what you do, it gives you credibility. So my days really vary depending on what my brands need. Did a lot of LinkedIn work. I have some social media influencers in the Wolfpack. So managing, doing, engaging, strategizing, it's very new. I love it.
So you kind of serve as like the middleman per se.
So I on my LinkedIn page it says I'm a force multiplier executive connector. So that's correct. I connect people to other people or connect solutions to other things. That's correct.
So what do you like most about your job, Sally?
Oh my gosh, I love working with customers who have a vision. For example, say someone wants to get in the government. I mean, there's $900 billion, Shane, in grants that the government provides. So someone maybe have a solution and they want to sell to the government, the Department of Defense, Department of Energy, Homeland Security. So I help them get ready by having their capability statement to make sure their footprint matches their superpower, etc. So I love helping customers realize their vision.
And what inspired you to pursue a career as a consultant and business strategist?
It was actually a lot of my mentors. At the time I was working in nuclear energy, and I had chief executives, chief nuclear officers, some CEOs, and they said, you know, Sally, you're really a trusted person. You ought to stand up a company kind of like Angie's List, because often we need people who do cybersecurity, or we might need a board member, we need something. So you should think about creating a company whereby you could help companies find trusted individuals who are the best and the brightest at what they do. So I had never really thought of having my own business. I just wanted to add value and, you know, be the best employee or whatever I could be to a company. But when they suggested that, I thought, well, why not? And so that's when I founded EchoWolf Solutions in 2016.
That's kind of when you knew this was the career for you and that you wanted to found your own business.
Well, how I actually started my career, I actually started in pre-med, so something completely different. So I was in pre-med, wanted to be a psychiatrist, working along, and many years ago, a woman came to town called Debbie Fields, Mrs. Fields Cookies, and I started working for Debbie Fields actually in the mailroom. And so I don't know if you've ever seen Devil Wears Prada, but I was like that. I was like, wow, and she'd come in, and I'd be like, Debbie, we should put cookies in recipe boxes, and there's this new woman on television, and maybe if we get cookies on her show, her name is Oprah. So it was literally right after Oprah started. So we got cookies on the show. Needless to say, Mrs. Fields went from 24 stores to 750 stores. They didn't call them unicorns at the time, but it was like a unicorn company. So I pivoted from medicine to marketing, and that's how I really got engaged in marketing and biz dev, and I love it.
That's awesome. So what skills and qualities would you say are essential for success in your field?
So the first thing, number one, is a passion. Absolute passion for what you do, passion for what I do. I love helping customers. I love solving problems, enjoy marketing, I enjoy business. So one has to have a passion, I believe, to do what they like to do and do it really well. The second thing is to build relationships. Very, very important to connect on LinkedIn, get yourself a LinkedIn page, create relationships, be polite, say thank you, and reach out to people before you need something. And that's really the key. You want to always be connecting to people, say thank you, be gracious, because people will help you if you say, gosh, could you give me some guidance? I'm looking for this, or might you connect me to someone? So that's the second really important thing is relationships. The third is being really organized. So whether it's having platforms using, the Google Suite or Microsoft Teams, or I use my phone a lot, being super organized so that you can follow up and be very aware of what opportunities exist. And then the fourth thing is just really commitment and working hard. I love to work. I like to play, but I definitely like to work, and I always follow up and do what I say I'm going to do with clients. So I would say under promise and over deliver so that you're delighting people. Those would be the areas.
So as a business owner and consultant, I'm sure that not everything runs perfect. So I want to ask you, what is the biggest challenge of the job? And can you point to me a specific time where you faced a significant challenge that comes to your mind?
Absolutely. So I would say the biggest challenge is making sure that I vet solutions and individuals, because our reputations are everything. And I'm very, very careful about who I refer to other people. I make sure that, I have a gentleman who does background checks. I work a lot with high security and with the government and DOD, and so I make sure that people have background checks. I also, interview them. I check references. I get a sense of who they are. But every once in a while, something occurs that just totally surprises me. And I'll give you an example. I had a client, and this client had contracts all over the country. I mean, probably $200 million contracts. So they looked good, everything sounded good, and I basically referred them to another client. And right before we started, I looked on their page, and it basically had this kind of apology for something that this person had done when they were 15 years of age. And I was just shocked. I'm like, how did this happen? And so I basically had to let my other client know. I said, I need you to look on this person's blog and read it, and they did, and it turned out okay. The client actually wrote me a really beautiful LinkedIn recommendation, so Sally has high integrity. So even though we can check references, we can, tell them in our intuition if they're a good person, we can interview them, every once in a while something slips by, and so we have to then immediately act on it so that a mistake doesn't turn into several mistakes. So
We were talking about contracts, and we keep talking about government contracts and stuff. Can you talk to me a little bit about what those contracts are and what they look like and what that money is serving to do?
Sure, absolutely. So right now I have a couple clients who we're helping sell to the government. So one client, her name's Dr. Maria Bell, and Dr. Maria Bell is a robotic surgeon. She had a medical metaverse company, very smart, and when she saw the Uvalde school incident, she was very troubled by the fact that it took 77 minutes for the first responders to access Robb Elementary. So she stood up a medical metaverse company, and she stood up a company that helps first responders get in very quickly and access the threat and neutralize the threat. And so Digital Twin Imaging, or DTI, we're helping her get into the government because there's a lot of funding available within states and federal. So we're introducing her to the right individuals to help, be able to fund. And the other thing she also does is write grants. So even if the funding doesn't come, she writes different grants to help with the school scans. It's really amazing technology.
Over the years, have there been any significant changes in the industry?
There have been major changes. I work with a lot of different industries, and I would say the biggest change right now, of course, is AI and ChatGPT and Gemini and OpenAI. And it's really interesting me because everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. It's like when something new happens, everybody kind of jumps on robotics and whatever there is. And it's really important that companies have a philosophy and a platform on which they operate. So I have a very good friend. He's immensely smart. He always tells me about things before they come down. So several years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, he had introduced me to AI, etc. And so I started to use ChatGPT right after it came out. So I decided right then for my own company that I write a lot. So I first write using my intelligence, and I do research, and I talk to the client and the shareholders, stakeholders, and I write something up. Then what I do is I send that to the client. I said, this is what I wrote. Then I run that through ChatGPT or Gemini, and then I look at that. And then what I do is I write something out using what I've learned plus my own intelligence. So that's my own integrity and philosophy and how I use some of these tools. And I think that's very important to make decisions as technology and new innovations come down, how we want to use it ourselves based on our ethics, our philosophy, how we want our brands to view us. And I truly think that our own creativity and intelligence is a very, very important aspect in addition to all the wonderful tools that we can get from research. So that would be the biggest change right now, of course, is AI.
And do you think it's really important for people to start utilizing AI as a tool rather than just using AI to do all their work in general, how to use AI in the right way?
It's everywhere. No, it's everywhere, Shane. Like every aspect, whether it's in legal or government or DoD or transportation, it's everywhere, and people are looking at it and exploring it. I'm going to a conference next week called GSX. There's 15,000 people in Orlando, and there will be a lot going on in AI, and it's a very exciting field, and so I think it's really important to look at how to use it in one's company.
AI is the future at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
So I know your path wasn't very linear as we were talking about, but what would you say the best path for someone to take is if they want to become a business owner and consultant like yourself?
Well, I think, first of all, the most important thing is to discover what are your superpowers. In other words, what do you do best? What would you do even if you weren't paid to do it because you love it so much? And so there's sort of 3 things when you're looking at careers or path. One is, what do you love to do? The second is, what are you good at? And the third thing that's very important is, does someone need it? So you remember several years ago when Michael Jordan was going to get into baseball, and so he loved it, right? The world wanted him to do it, but he didn't do too well at it, right? So when you look at those 3 things, I think that's a really important way to decide what you want to do. The second, or after that, then to talk to people, kind of like we're doing now. Seek out people, friends, connections, people that maybe your parents know, your friends know, and talk to them about what they do and interview them. And that's why CareerRoad is so excellent, because people can actually come in here and get a sense of what to do and talk with real people. And I think it's an excellent thing that you're doing. And then the final thing is really that commitment. In other words, how committed am I to doing this, right? Like, I remember when I was young, I wanted to be an ice skater. So we had a pond next to my house. Well, I wasn't willing to practice, 17 hours, and just so I thought it was interesting, but I didn't really want to do it that badly. So it's important, I think, when we decide what we want to do to really be committed.
So I know we were talking about mentors and talking to people. How important would you say it is for people to go out and find mentors and make connections?
Shane, I think that's everything. I mean, having a mentor, I actually, when I started working at Mrs. Fields, Debbie Fields was my mentor, so I learned so much from her. And over the years, I've had different mentors in my life. And even now, in my company, I have a lot of different people that I seek advice with, whether it's somebody with the Pentagon or an attorney or a friend. So mentors are everything because they have experience, and then they can also provide us with connections we need to sort of push the trajectory of the service we're trying to give. So I think mentors are very important, and being gracious and saying thank you. And a long time ago, someone told me, always write a handwritten thank you. And in this day and age, when there's texting, and I text a lot, I'm like the ultimate texter, and I use my phone, and I do I do all that stuff. But I also have my note cards, and I write handwritten thank yous to people. I get their address, and I think in this day and age, it really differentiates you. So you have to differentiate yourself from all the many others.
Yeah. What is the average yearly earning potential of a business strategist and consultant?
I would say 6 figures to north of 7 figures. But more important than that is the opportunity to assist someone in getting a really large contract, right? So you probably, you could make 6 figures. So say you made, I don't know, 80 or 100,000 a year, right? But then you could do a contract, or you could do a deal where you said, look, if I introduce you to this individual and you end up getting $1 million contract, what kind of percentage on a referral fee could I give you? Because even if they paid a certain hourly rate, the kinds of individuals you can connect them with are worth much more than that hourly rate. So if you can negotiate with them to get a percentage based on you introducing them, you can really level up your income, which you can put back in your business and grow and that kind of thing.
So you're talking more about like taking a commission sort of thing?
On top of the base.
Yeah.
So it's really important, that you don't just say, do all this stuff for you, and if you happen to get something, you can pay me. It's really important that you're paid for what you do, for the hours you put in, and then if you feel like they would be willing to pay you a little bump based on a referral, you can do that. And then if they don't have enough to totally pay you a lot, but they want you, you can do an equity play. For example, if they went public or someone purchased them, then maybe you would have options. So there's lots of different structures based on what your client or based on what your organization wants you to do.
So we talked a little bit about the road that you took to get to where you are, but I want to back you up to high school and even before high school. Can you talk to me about that road that you took to get to where you are?
Absolutely. So as I said, I can remember in 6th grade, Shane, wanting to be going to medicine. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And I can remember studying, this was forever ago, like encyclopedias, and we didn't just pull out, Google and ChatGPT. So I was studying that. So I really, really wanted to do that. And so what I did was I spoke with a local physician, and I actually shadowed a physician. So I went and, worked alongside them. I mean, this was probably before HIPAA compliance was really big. And so I really learned what it was like. And I was very, very set and clear and all set with my career path. And I knew I wanted to go to college, and I knew I wanted to get a degree. But when this came up with Mrs. Fields, it all changed. And so I think it's important to have a path, have a direction, and be willing if something comes up that's really amazing and allows you to, use your skills and your superpowers even more to be able to have that flexibility to pivot. So I know a lot of career counselors, and sometimes, the parents will bring the person in and they'll sort of say, how do you become a nuclear engineer? And the young person maybe doesn't want to do it. So I think it's challenging enough to figure out what we want to do when we're 16, 17, 18, 19. So I think it's just important to keep looking for opportunities, do really great at what you do, and then be open for things that come into our lives that might lead us to a different space. Because I believe, Jane, that everything I'm doing now, everything I've done my whole life is helping me and prepared me for what I'm doing right now.
And finally, Sally, I want to ask you, what specific advice would you have for young adults who may want to pursue a similar career as you?
So first of all, get yourself a LinkedIn page. I'm happy to help you set it up. Secondly, connect with me on LinkedIn. I have over 10,000 followers and individuals. And then thirdly, create a plan for yourself, write a path for yourself. Some people call it a vision board or a strategy or a plan, but make a plan for yourself and how you get to that career. What are the skills necessary? What are the degrees? What are the aptitudes? There's a lot of tests, right? The Myers-Briggs, all those. I think I'm an ENTJ. So there's a lot of tools out there that sort of help us align what we need to do. For example, if someone would have said, Sally, we want you to be this computer programmer. It's not what I vibe with, right? So it's really important that we have those 3 areas. 1, we're passionate about it. 2, we're good at it. And 3, the world wants and needs what we have to offer.
Awesome. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the interview, but I wanted to thank you so much, Sally, for taking the time out of your day and supporting CareerRoad's mission, and I'm very excited to put this interview out there and connect you with young adults all across the nation.
Thank you, Shane. I look forward to connecting with people in Equitable Solutions. Would be happy to have some mentors, or I'd be happy to coach anybody who's interested. Thanks.
Fantastic.